Hello, Cinti.
Hi, Chanel.
How are you doing?
I'm tired.
I'm also very tired. I did not sleep well
Yeah,
for
you
this
have been
whole
talking
week.
about that sleep has been difficult. I'm just tired because
Ah,
life. Life gets. I
yes.
had a full work week and now I have a full podcast schedule in front of me. So, yeah.
hmm It is true. The life of podcasters is hard, especially when you don't have a whole team behind you,
Yeah,
okay?
I think as
We do
well the
everything.
fact that it's our it's our side thing, it's our hobby, I guess you could say. That's
Yeah.
turning to be kind of like a second job. It's the 5 to 9 after the 9 to 5 type thing. And
Yep.
that 9 to 5 really drains you and you got to come with the energy for
Woo!
your 5 to 9 afterwards. So,
It's true.
yeah.
It's true. But we always have a good time when we're talking, at least.
At least
At
that's the part
least.
that's okay. Is that could you imagine if like we had to do it and we hated it too? It's like, I can't believe I have to
Oh
talk to
God.
Chanel again.
Yeah.
Acting
Then
like
then we might have to call it a wrap.
right, but like we act
But yeah.
like that'd be us acting like we don't already talk a lot in general. So it's
True.
just this time it's recorded
Mm-hmm.
for everybody else to see.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. So today we are once again reviewing some more movies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. So we are doing two movies today, and this is what I like to call a black episode. Hey, 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 black.
It's the
Because
first
we
one.
have two.
No, no.
I,
It is. Is it?
I think it might be our first one.
We've done black movies, but I don't know if it's been two back to back
Yes.
black movies.
So we are talking about two movies. We're talking about American Fiction and They Cloned Tyrone.
Yes.
Which one would you like to start with, Cindy?
I think they cloned Tyrone. Yes, they cloned Tyrone.
Okay.
hmm
They Cloned Tyrone. Would you like to introduce it or would you like me to do the synopsis?
I'm gonna allow you to do the synopsis. I think you remember the details better than I do.
Thank you for this opportunity.
You're
I will
very
not
welcome.
let you down.
You're very welcome.
Okay. So, They Clone Tyrone is about three main characters, okay? We have Fontaine, we have Slick Charles, and we have Yo Yo.
hmm
Fontaine is a drug dealer in the hood, okay? Slick Charles is a pimp in the hood, and Yo Yo is a prostitute for said pimp in the hood.
hmm
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so they're going on about their lives, minding their own business. And then, long story short, Fontaine, the drug dealer, he goes and like injures his enemy's like underling. He like ran him over with his car or whatever
hmm
because he was in the wrong territory or whatnot. And so the word gets back to, his opposition. And that said opposition comes back and shoots him dead.
Yep.
And we were like, oh my God.
Shocker.
But then he wakes up the next day and he's fine. He doesn't even remember what happened,
hmm
but he goes back to the pimp because originally he wanted some money from the pimp. And so he went to him. And so when he comes back to the pimp and the pimp's like, bro, you were dead.
Yep. You died
I saw
yesterday.
you dead. You died. Why are you back? And he's like, what are you talking about? And
hmm
so that is the premise for this movie. They're trying to figure out what happened to Fontaine. And guess what? The answer's in the title. They cloned Fontaine and whoever Tyrone is. Okay? They cloned them. And yeah, I think from there, that's the premise.
That is
But
the
let's get
premise.
into our scenes.
Our
Okay? Let's get into the
scenes.
scenes.
So
Yes.
I think for me, I guess like the beginning sequence from the introduction of Fontaine to when he gets shot, I think is where I would like to start. Just because, like you said, it was shocking. Because you
Yeah.
don't, at least that wasn't my expectation that we were going to start the film and immediately the main character that we were introduced to dies. Especially with
Immediately.
yeah, immediately. Especially with the fact that the title of it is They Clone Tyrone. First of all, the fact that his name was Fontaine threw me, right? And then second of all, I'm like, okay, well, if he's the main character, obviously he's going to be cloned in some sort. But I'm like, if you're going to kill the guy you're cloning, how are you going to clone him, right? So
Yeah.
the introduction to his character I thought was really cool. The way that you see his routine of like going to work out, going to go bother people, going to get like a scratcher, pouring some alcohol for the guy who sits outside of the little like gas station shop, you know, like that sequence. I'm like, this is giving regular everyday life. When are we gonna get to the
Mm-hmm.
point of like this supernatural type of cloning, whatever, sci-fi, of course, and then but bam, 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 he's gone. So
Mm-hmm.
that to me was just like a whoa.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't really sure what they were going to do with this movie. I remember seeing the trailer way back when, and I was like, I don't know.
I felt the
And
same.
then I watched, my mom was watching it, and I was like, I don't know. Uh, but yeah, I thought the intro, I was like, okay, what are we doing? But
Mhm.
then when they finally got into it, I was like, okay, we're going on a little adventure here. So
Mhm.
I think the moment when they actually found the clone is probably the next one where I was like, oh,
Yeah.
they found the clone,
Yep.
baby clone. Yeah,
That was trippy.
it was trip. Imagine, could you imagine seeing a clone of yourself?
No, I can't. I honestly, I don't. I did think about that. I was like, what would I do in that situation? Especially because it's like Fontaine thought he thought he was who he was. Like there was no concept
Yeah.
of there are other versions of him. And it then begs the
Mm-hmm.
question, like it's really rocking with your identity because it begs the question, like how many, like what number version is he, you know?
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like seeing yourself dead as well as just a feeling that I don't think anybody will be able to comprehend what that's like seeing yourself dead. And he was faced
Yeah.
with his own dead body. And so that to me was just like crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. What's your next scene?
I'm trying to think. This might be this does jump a bit. But I think the next scene that I liked was when they were it was pretty much they got down to the underneath or whatever, and they were able to see that there was a lot of different clones of themselves. But that I think
Mm-hmm.
that sequence was very interesting, but not for me noteworthy. The part that I really liked was after they got out from the like was it the strip, was it a strip club or was it just a regular club?
It might have just been a regular club.
Okay. So you kind of find out at that point that there's multiple entrances that you can get into to get to this underneath because they initially
Yep.
found the first one in a closet and then it got locked up. So they went down and they came back up through a club and they were being chased by everybody, that you find out that pretty much every single person in that town is under control by an entity that we don't know. And it was
Yeah.
that scene where Fontaine, Yo-Yo, and Slick Charles were face to face with, I forget his name, but one of the henchmen, you can say, and then a clone of Fontaine who is not
Mm-hmm.
Fontaine. And it was that moment in which Fontaine tried to attack him and he was pretty much like freeze, and Fontaine
Yeah.
froze. And then at that point you find
Mm-hmm.
out that Slick Charles is also a clone. He's not the original Slick Charles either.
Drama.
And it was that whole sequence of like, you have no control of this situation, like I have control. And the extra added sauce layer where you find out that Yo-Yo is not a clone because they were like, it's like a prostitute, you're a dime a dozen, like if you die we can replace you in 2 seconds, like there's someone that can
Yeah.
replace you. So in that sequence, just getting that whole like, they're so underprepared for the task at hand and they have no idea what's going on, and I felt like that was a really good point to see and to watch of like, shoot, they're really like, they have no resources, they can't really do anything because the moment this guy
Mm-hmm.
says freeze, everybody clap your hands, it's over.
They'll start clapping.
Yeah, they'll start clapping.
Yes.
Bring out the
And
cha-cha
so,
slide.
yeah, I agree. I like the conspiracy. I'm all about a good conspiracy. I
Mm.
like when people, especially in movies, like conspiracies where people are trying to figure out what's actually going on in the town. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
god. I really like that. And so for this one, they had a whole conspiracy. It was basically they tell you, and this is spoilers just in case somebody wants to watch this movie, go watch it and then come back, baby. I'm
See, at
sorry,
this
we do
point, if somebody
spoilers
has listened
here.
to these podcast episodes up until this point and they don't know
And
we
they
don't talk
don't,
spoilers, that's
yeah.
that's on them.
Unless it's a 10 out of 10 movie, we're talking spoilers.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Anyways, so with the conspiracy, it was essentially it was like a corporation of some sort, and they said essentially like it was after America abolished slavery, that caused an issue where, you know, you have a bunch of different people who all look different, have different experiences, and we can't get along. That's
Mm-hmm.
the primary issue. And so this corporation is trying to get America under control. And to do that, they're trying to essentially control black people and
Mm-hmm.
like basically come up with strategies to make sure that all people will be alike and get along. That's essentially it. And
Mm-hmm.
so they have these hoods as covers for what they're trying to do. They're testing.
Mm.
And so they make the hoods really bad. They have an incentive to make it bad so that white people don't come in and so that they won't be exposed.
Yes.
And so this is all a front for their evil mastermind testing facilities. And so they basically created a bunch of clones of archetypes that they need in the hood to make the hood bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so Fontaine's a drug dealer. Drug dealers make places bad. Slick Charles is a pimp. He's going to make the area worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what keeps people under control. And then not only that, they also have the chicken. Yeah, fried chicken.
Oh yeah,
It's not
I
safe, you
forgot about that.
guys.
Chanel.
Mind control.
Just a quick aside. Why did that
Yeah.
chicken look good?
Stop, Cindy. They got you too. They got you too.
I'm not gonna even front. If they, I will say this though. Wait, I was about to use a phrase that I shouldn't use, but if they had sauces instead of just eating the chicken plain, like
Yeah.
then they would have got me. But they were just biting into that chicken, and I'm like, that's kind of dry. Like, where's your sauce?
Yeah.
But
Let's get a
it looked
side or
good.
something.
It looked good.
But yeah, so the chicken, it essentially makes you happy and it makes you like laugh, and you know, it basically like drugs you so that you forget about your problems. Then they had I was gonna say creamy crack. They have the perm
Yeah.
stuff, okay,
Mm-hmm.
permanently straightening your hair. And so that is essentially to make you relax. And like one girl, she was talking about, oh, my work, like they're so trifling and da da da. And then the lady's putting the stuff in her hair and she goes, well, I guess I'm just tripping, you know, like it's not that big of a deal. Like it just makes you relax.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some other ones like the music in the club. The music, it was mind control music, and
Yeah.
so they would do whatever the person was talking about. So there's a bunch of different conspiracy things going on in the hood to make sure that it stays the hood, so
Mm-hmm.
that they can test their other mind control stuff and use
Right.
black people for that. But yeah, so that I like the scenes with the different like, ooh, mind control, ooh, crazy, wow.
They were really out there. They were really out there just amplifying like stereotypes because I'm surprised they didn't have
Yes.
something watermelon related at some point.
Oh, you see, I think they picked one because they were like, we can't be that. We can't. The white people are going to be too happy. They're going to be smiling too hard.
They might have been
Too
too happy.
hard.
They probably would have. They probably would
Because
have.
they had grape drink. Yeah, let's leave it there.
Okay. There's two scenes, but I'm trying to decide which one I prefer because I'm like they're
Mm-hmm.
semi back to back. Well, no, I'll do this one. It's with Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo got right.
Yeah. She
She
done got.
ultimately Print or Slick Charles and Fontaine were like, there's nothing we can do. I think it was after the point where they found out they were controlled. They were like, there's nothing we can really do because we can't fight
Yep.
back. Obviously, they have control of us. We don't have control of our bodies, so we might as well just keep doing what they're doing. And Yo-Yo was like, no, like I'm gonna write an article, I'm gonna send it, and the news is gonna get this story, but she gets got right. So she
Yep.
gets grabbed, she gets taken away, and she's in their facility where they're doing all their testing on other black people with their products. And it was a moment where they were trying to use, as Chanel said, the creamy crack of some sort on Yo-Yo, and they're like, it's fine. If this works, this is great. If it doesn't work, then you're gonna be like incapacitated for the rest of your life, type of thing. So they start putting the product and massaging it into her hair. and she's screaming like, no, no, don't do this to me, no, no. And then after a while she stops and they're like, oh, okay, that we killed her type of thing, and she gets up and like whips around, beats him up, knocks him out, and she takes off the wig.
That crap was so funny.
It was hilarious. I was like, yes. And it honestly, it brought attention to the fact that it's like, you don't know the demographic that you're doing your tests on. Like, it didn't cross your
Yeah.
mind that Black women like to wear wigs, weaves. Like, in all the research you did with your fried chicken, with your pimps, with your prostitutes, with your drug dealers, you didn't even think, oh, maybe she could be wearing a wig. So at that point,
Nope.
I'm like, the fault's on you. But that sequence was hilarious because I really did think that was her hair for the majority of the film. So when she pulled that off, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's
Ooh.
hilarious. That's so funny. So I really enjoyed that scene. That scene was like probably one of my like favorites of the film.
Yes, that was pretty funny. And then let's see. I would say my scene, I liked when all, my people, they came together.
Yeah.
Cindy, they came together and
Yep.
they said, enough is enough. And I love that it was like, when they showed it, it was essentially like, hey, I know you're an opposite gang, but these white people are messing with us. And the opposite gang's like, okay, we'll help you.
Yeah. As it should be. Like, we all have a common enemy type thing.
Yep. Make it easy, make it easy. And so they schemed, they scammed, and sure enough, they got into the facility where they were doing all the testing and stuff. And yeah, they really handled their business. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't mad. Wasn't
Nope.
mad at it.
Mm-mm-mm. Okay. Do you have any more scenes between like this point and the end? Because my last scene that I liked is like the very end of the film.
No.
Okay. So my last favorite scene is when we're at the like, it seems as though the movie's starting all over again, where we're having the beginning sequences as we did with Fontaine, but with a person that doesn't quite look like Fontaine. Like, it's Fontaine's face, but it's like his hair is different, his vibe is different, all that stuff. And I believe the film took place in what, like, was it on the East Coast?
I think it was in Chicago.
Okay, in
I
Chicago,
think.
but now we're in like Los Angeles at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're watching, and then all of a sudden, fake Fontaine is on the couch with a bunch of his buddies watching the aftermath of the movie, pretty much. There's a news story happening in Chicago talking about like, oh, we have a bunch of clones, and that you see Fontaine or a clone of Fontaine go across the screen, and all of the guys in this LA place look and they're like, Tyrone, is that you? And you're like, oh, that's Tyrone.
They cloned Tyrone.
And so, yeah, and so I kind of like the way they tied it all together in the end, right? Because the
Yeah.
title of the movie, it made sense with the idea of clones, but then you're just like, why Tyrone? And so
Mm-hmm.
the movie ending with introduction to Tyrone and kind of showcasing that there's a possibility that this whole thing might start over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the fact of like Tyrone might now be going on a mission to find out why he was cloned. And then also I'm
Yep.
like, so Tyrone, are you the original? Like, was that Fontaine that we met that was older that died? Was he really the original? Like, what's going on here? Like, what is the backstory? What's happening? And I believe they provided context where they stated there was more cities that this was happening in, and that's kind of where our main
Mm-hmm.
characters were going to go to. But kind of conceptualizing it and seeing it, you're just like, are there more clones in more facilities that we don't know about that are going on
Yep.
at this very moment? So I
Mm-hmm.
really liked the way they closed out that film with
Yep.
some Erica Badu.
Erica Badu, you better clone Tyrone.
Found
Clone him.
him.
Okay, so yeah. So then we move on to the next movie, right? Was there
American
anything you
Fiction. Oh,
Okay. Perfect. Let's go.
yeah, I had nothing else. American Fiction. So American Fiction follows. I don't remember his full name. I think it's like Thelonious.
Thelonious
Thelonious.
Monk Ellison.
Yes, Thelonious Ellison, known as Monk, or known like casually as Monk. It follows a story of Monk, who is initially seen to be a professor at a school who is sick and tired of dealing with this new generation, new age of students. And I guess for him, I'm explaining it in his terms, he doesn't like the fact of how coddled his students are and how, I guess, fearful they are to have serious conversations when it comes to race and ethnicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, or just generally race. So he, you know, as a professor, gets met with the council after blowing up on a student, making a student cry, and gets put on leave. Not a sabbatical, on leave, where they're like, we're not going to pay you, but you can go off somewhere to take a break because since we hired you, you haven't really published, you're not really giving us anything, and you're making your students cry. So he leaves where he's at, goes home, and you kind of get introduced to his own familial struggles and an understanding as to why he doesn't want to be home. And, some events happen, which I'm sure Chanel and I are going to talk about, but he's like, I need to do something different. He actually comes and sees that there's another black I almost said actor, another black author who wrote a book that is quote unquote very stereotypically black. And he's just like, I can't believe these people are eating it up. So he goes ahead and writes himself a very stereotypically black book, thinking that, it's going to get thrown to the side, and it becomes a bestseller. So this kind of follows his journey with coming to terms with his own identity when it comes to being an author and his own understanding of what people like and what people dislike, as well as his familial dynamics. Is there
Yes.
anything else that you think I'm missing, Chanel?
No, ma'am.
Wonderful. So give me your first scene. What's the first scene that you would like to talk about?
You see, I have to talk about it. I have to. I don't like when movies fridge their women characters.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not a fan of that. I was like, Tracy Ellis Ross, what are
Yeah.
you doing here? And then she said, "Poof, be gone," and she died. What?
Yeah. No, that was crazy. I I agree with you 100%, and I feel like it happens a lot with black women where they have a black woman in a film for 0.2 seconds and it moves the
Yes.
plot, but what was the purpose of putting them there?
Yes. It's just to, move move his story along
Yep.
and forget about the woman. We knew she was a doctor. She
Mhm.
was taking care of the mom, and that's about it. And now we know nothing about her because
She's
she's dead.
gone. Poof.
Yep.
Yes.
Her. Period. But yeah, so that's something I'm not a fan of, but it is what it is. It is
Mhm.
what it is. What's your scene, Cindy?
I liked Sterling K. Brown's character just in totality this film. It's his character was at least the character he played is something different than I've seen of him. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of what he's been typecasted as is that self-righteous individual. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to front. I feel like Sterling K. Brown's character is more of what Monk was in this movie. I've seen
Yeah.
him play that character. So what he played
Mm-hmm.
was so completely different, and it made me grow to appreciate him more as an actor because I feel like he played that role really, really well. And the reason why I brought him up at this point was because after the funeral scene, after we have the spreading of Tracy Ellis Ross's ashes, you get that sequence between Monk and I forget Sterling's character's name, but that sequence, and you find out that Sterling's character has come out as gay. He cheated on his wife. His kids hate him, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa! This is not the character Sterling plays. Sterling plays always happy, happy go lucky with a beautiful black woman with kids. They all adore him. You know what I mean? So at that point, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
dang, Sterling, we're doing something different here.
Yep.
And I enjoyed his character quite a lot. And I probably will start watching more of his stuff. I've been avoiding This Is Us, but I might watch it just for him.
Drama. That's
It's
drama.
drama. It is a drama.
Literally.
Mhm.
Um, I would say my next scene is probably when his publisher, Monk's publisher, is like, "Bro, I read your book. Like, I'm not sending this out." And he's
Yeah.
like, "No, please send it out. It's gonna be a joke. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Please, please." He's like, "Fine, I'll send it out, but I'm sending it to one place, and we're gonna call it a day."
Yep.
And he sent it And then he calls homeboy back and he's like, hey, my favorite person in the whole world. We're selling your book. We're
Yeah.
selling your book.
Mm-hmm.
And homeboy's Monk's like, bro, you said it sucked. I know I said it sucked, but there's a lot of zeros in the number that they want to pay
Yeah.
you. So we're selling the
No, he started
book.
insulting. He started insulting. He was like, I need to realize, like, a lot of these people that we're talking to, they're stupid. Like, I
Yeah.
held our audience to such a high level and I was incorrect. Like, our audience
Yes.
um is not there, which I think was a theme that was played a lot, which I really appreciated, was that every single person was like, or pretense, or whatever the word is, was set that like the only people who would like these books are people who don't know things and are stupid. They're trying to
Mm-hmm.
absolve their guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that theme was played over and over and over again. So I really liked that sequence where he was like, yeah, everyone's stupid, but hey, it's money, let's take it.
As money. You see how many zeros?
That
Yeah.
was a lot
You're
of
selling this
zeros.
book.
Yep.
Yes. And so I liked when he was trying to convince him to, like, the entire time, the publisher trying to convince him to be like, or the agent trying to convince him to be like, bro, we're selling this book. Okay, let's get on a call with them. Okay, you need to sound black.
That
Sound like the
part.
person who wrote
Oh, that
this
part
book.
pissed me off. I was like, sir.
That crap was funny.
Oh my goodness.
He's like, and then the white lady on the other end, like, oh, okay. I thought
I was confused.
when you first came on, I was confused, but now, like, this totally makes sense how you
Yep.
talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then him just playing the part was really funny, and I did like the agent kind of hounding him on
He
and
was
trying
funny.
to assist him through this problem.
Their sequences were always so funny to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. Oh, are you done with your scene, Miss Chanel?
Yes.
Okay. I liked the introduction of Adam Brody. That seems so random to me.
Yes. Yes.
But
Adam Brody.
yes.
Period.
We love us some Adam Brody. So
Yes, Seth Cohen.
yes, Seth Cohen, OC till we die.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we need to actually get into season 2 though.
Yeah, yeah.
Eventually.
We've been watching a lot of movies, so
Truly. Oh my goodness. Um anyway, I like the meeting with Seth Cohen, and just the way that sequence they came up because Seth Cohen's character, or sorry, Adam Brody's character is playing some through like hotshot director who wants to turn this book that Monk submitted as a joke to into a movie. And I love that as well, just precursor to that. Monk was afraid that like he was gonna get recognized, but he was like, nobody reads your books. Like, no offense, nobody reads your books. Nobody's gonna know that it's
yeah.
you. And that
Mm-hmm.
whole sequence where Adam was just like, I'm so sorry I brought you here. And Monk's like, why? And he's like, well, this is not the type of place that you take criminals.
Oh my
And Monk
god.
ordered some wine, and Adam's like, that's weird. And he's like, I served some time. What'd you do? And it was just it was just awkward. The whole thing was
Mm-hmm.
awkward. And just even continuing to that, Monk ends up having to leave because he's like concerned about his mom, and he saw an ambulance coming, so he thought it was his mom. And you come to find out that he gets the movie deal because Adam believes so wholeheartedly he was a criminal because got up and ran as soon as he heard the sirens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, let's sit and think about this. If we use our critical thinking skills, and I know we've had this discussion. I don't have a lot of critical thinking skills. I have some, and I have enough to be able to piece together that this does not make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
They just ultimately want to see what they want to see, and they're seeing what they want to see, and Monk and his agent are playing into it. It's like they're playing them for fools.
Yes.
And at some points I'm like, you shouldn't lie, because like lying, ultimately you'll get in trouble at some point. But at the same time, I'm like, these people are making it so easy. They want to believe that this is the
They
truth.
want it. They want
So
it.
I guess you kind of have to give it to them.
Yes. And then on that note, we can talk about the fact that Monk and the lady who wrote the book that he was not a fan
Issa
of,
Rae's character.
Issa Rae's character, Centara Golden. So they are on a committee I guess you would call it, for an award.
Yeah, a literary
So they
award of some
are
sort.
they're judging books for an award. And so they are only on, these two black people are only on this committee because they have been accused for not being diverse.
Yep.
So that's the only reason why these two black authors are here, and the
Mm-hmm.
rest are white authors. And so they are judging books, and then Monk's fake book, not fake book, it's an actual book, but
Yeah.
his trash book that he wrote gets put into the running. And so then all these white people basically steamroll the two black people's opinion
Mm-hmm.
and say, yes, we should choose this book because it's necessary for us to listen to black voices.
Yep.
As they're not listening to the two black authors' voices in the room.
Yep.
At the same time.
Yes.
And so I actually laughed out loud. I thought that was really funny.
Yes.
And then also within this scene, we also see the fact that Monk didn't even read the book that he was judging Sintara for writing.
Yep.
But he still had an opinion on it. And then Sintara doesn't like Monk's book, but she still wrote about something similar, but she was saying his doesn't have a soul, but hers does because she did the research. So even though she's not from that background, she still feels like she tried to do them justice, and she used like research and interviews and all that crap to bring it to life. I think there's still a debate to be had between there, you know what I mean? Because I feel like Monk made some points, Sintara made some points, you know what I mean? And so there's still a debate there. I'm glad they didn't make it black and white, but nonetheless.
See, that I would have to slightly disagree with you because I think it's difficult for us to say that Monk made some points because he didn't read Sintara's books.
Yeah,
right?
He didn't read the book, so obviously he's biased, but I think the point that he made that I'm talking about is the fact that he's like, you came from this background and you're trying to, write from a perspective that you don't have. And so I think that's definitely something that can be argued for, because it's like, okay, is that your story to tell? You know what I mean? Like you went to an Ivy League school, you have never been impoverished, but this is the story that you're drawn to tell. And of course it's a debate. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that's the right idea, but when he said that, I was like, it is a point. That is a point. Like, that's what you're deciding
like,
to write
Monk,
about.
You get one.
You get 1 point, but you didn't read her book, bro.
Yeah.
Everything else is invalid.
See,
but yeah,
exactly.
So that's why I was like, they both made points. I don't think it's 100% this way, 100% that way, because the same way people like Monk's book is the same way they like her book, even though she's coming from a good place, right?
Yeah.
They still like the books for the same reason. So it's kind of like, still,
Yeah. I would have to say that would be the point that I would agree with Monk. That would be my point that I would give him.
Yes, that point. He didn't read the book though, so.
Yeah, well, it's because she admitted to it herself. Because he was like, well, you see, even in this panel, that the reason why they like the name of this book, which is my book, that you don't know it's my book, is because it's hitting a specific sort of guilt factor that they want. It's like also painting an image of black people that they believe that black people are. And so they think they're doing the work when they're not doing the work. And she ultimately was just like, well, you obviously have to play the game to sell books. And at that point, it's like, okay, well, at that point, I feel like he made a point because she agreed to it. Previously with him being like, oh, yada, 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 background. I'm like, to an extent, yes. And I agree that there could be an argument, but also it's like you could, and this is where the argument would come in. It's like, well, she has access to the resources that a lot of the people that she's trying to amplify their voices don't have. So blah, 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 blah.
True.
That's where I was just like, you're making a point without reading the book. I can't agree with you. But when she agreed with him being like, yeah, I did put out this book because this is what would sell. At that point, I'm like,
what will sell?
Okay, Monk, you
and
made
then
your point.
Miss Lady, what are you doing with the money that you actually got?
Exactly.
Which we don't know. But also that, And then, I thought their conversation was very interesting. And I think I like their back and forth. I don't like that they ended on such a sour note.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense, but it's kind of like, he's dumb. You also have some problematic stuff going on, lady. I don't know as much as him, but nonetheless, you know what I mean? So it's like, I wish that they would have found a compromise or something, but It is what it is. But yeah, I
Yeah.
thought the points between both of them were very interesting because with Homeboy, it's like you're doing the same thing that you're accusing her of doing, but with no soul.
Yes.
Like,
And
no, even not even the front of like trying to help in some way,
yes.
you know.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I thought the exact same thing where he was like he was going so hard on her. But I'm like
So hard.
you can't put yourself on a pedestal when you're doing the exact same thing, you know?
The same thing.
He really tried to make himself think that he was different from I think he called himself Stag something, Stag Stein or something. Um
Mm-hmm.
whatever his name was. He tried to make it seem like those were two different people. Like he didn't write the book, he didn't give it to his agent to put out there that he didn't accept the offer, that he didn't make the movie deal. Like you
Mm-hmm.
essentially put yourself in a better position than she's in because I don't think she got a literary award for her book.
True. True.
She doesn't have
Yep.
movie deals
And
for her book.
that's a good point because also if we go even further, you're pretending to be the person from that demographic while
Yes.
she's straight up I'm myself. She was
Yes.
going on TV talking about her book and she was talking
Yes.
like I'm me.
Mhm.
He's pretending to be someone from that disadvantaged background and,
Yes.
you know, writing the story, and so you're doing the same goddamn
But
thing. It's
worse.
just I feel like he just can't he and this is the thing, human psychology is weird
Mhm.
because he on the outside is like I'm better than everybody else, I'm better than everybody else, I'm better than everybody else, I think better, I don't like trash, you guys like trash, da da da, and he's very like on that pedestal. But I think on the inside he doesn't think he's good enough,
No,
and
for
that's the
sure.
reason why he's stooping to these things that go against his morals, is because he's like I feel like this is the only way I can get to where I want to get, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so, yeah, I thought, yeah, but in general, that scene very interesting. I like
Mhm.
that dynamic. Two people that, you know, same but different, and then also problematic in different ways. I thought that was very interesting.
Yes. And I actually want to the point that you made about him not thinking he's good enough actually brought up a scene that I
Yeah.
want to talk about that's related was
Mm-hmm.
his mother's declining in health. I believe that she has dementia, I believe, or
Mm-hmm.
dementia or is dementia and Alzheimer's the same thing?
I don't think they're the same thing, but I don't know how they're different.
Okay. So let's just say early stages of dementia and honestly because the sister's gone, Monk is the only one who takes care of the mother, and we get background into Cliff is Sterling's character. Why not? But there's a scene where Monk is trying to have a conversation with his mother about how things are very difficult for him, and the
Mm-hmm.
mother was like, "Well, it's because you're a genius. Like you are a genius, and as a genius, it's difficult for you to relate to other people." And like that's a
Yeah.
burden that you've always carried, right? And it's like that they have this whole conversation where he's starting to feel like consoled by his mom, and he's like, "Thanks, Mom." And she goes, "No problem, Cliff." So the entire time she thought she was talking
Oh,
to Cliff, calling Cliff a
yes.
genius and saying the reason why you're not able to get along. And so I feel like that amplifies Monk's insecurities because
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's kind of danced around with the family dynamics because even when Tracy Ellis Ross's character was there, they were all just like, "Well, yeah, we didn't really hang out with you or don't keep up with you because you were always closer to Dad. You're like Dad. You're like Dad," and their father's no longer there. So the only person
Yep.
who he really felt connected to is not here, and it seems like the rest of his family just kind of looks at him to the wayside. That he's not a real
Yes.
doctor. He you know, that's one thing as well, and it's just like he doesn't seemingly fit into the mold and all that stuff. So I feel like that kind of plays into his insecurities as well because he doesn't feel like he's enough from his familial standards.
Yes. And the whole family system has daddy issues. Yes.
Yes.
Because his father committed suicide
Mhm.
in their home.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's enough. That's already enough.
Yeah.
And so, him also being compared to the father all the time. And then, even there was another scene with Cliff where he was like, I can tell you've been like keeping something from us. Dad used to do the same thing. How did that turn out for him?
Right.
Like, you gotta let people in type thing.
Mhm.
And so I thought that was very interesting. But yeah, you can tell he's struggling,
Very much
struggling,
so.
and at this point he was just lashing out at everybody.
Everybody left, right, up, down.
Everybody.
But yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
I have one more scene. Do you have any more?
Okay. I don't know. Let's see. But tell me your scene.
The scene is the final scene in the movie, and it really bothered me because I just don't like open endings. um So it was, you kind of find out, like, we have the whole sequence where he goes to the award show, his book that he uses a pseudonym for wins, and he's going up to the stage and it goes to black, and you're like, is the movie over? And then you realize that he's actually pitching his life as a movie to Adam Brody's character in hopes that Adam Brody doesn't make the book into a movie. And you have
Mm-hmm.
this whole sequence where he goes through different potential endings for the movie, like for this movie that's being made within the movie of his life. And ultimately they set on like something super dynamic, and it kind of hits more again of how like playing into stereotypes, and that's everything that Monk was trying to be against. But ultimately you kind of ride off into the sunset, and the movie ends. Cliff and Monk go off together. They seemingly are getting along more, but you don't really get much resolution as far as like they kind of tell you, but you don't see the after effects of his actions from the film
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish there was more of an ending, but hey, you win some, you lose some.
You win some, you lose some. Yeah. I would say, well, first let me see if there was actually let me comment on what you just said.
Mhm.
So I would say I didn't mind the ending, but I would agree it was kind of lackluster.
Mhm.
Because I thought, and I think the problem is okay, how can I explain this? So we jumped into the award ceremony and we thought that was real life and it wasn't real life.
Mhm.
As opposed to, because I was talking to you and I was like, oh, I like the scene earlier in the movie where it was kind of like he was telling the story and it had the two actors and they were
Yeah, I
acting
like
out the
that scene.
story.
Mhm.
I like that a lot. So I don't know. I'm not a creator, like director or whatever. But it would have been interesting for them to keep us in reality, take us to the point where he's like, okay, I lost the game, and now let's see if I can convince this guy to make this movie, right? And
Mhm.
then just kind of show it to us while they're standing there or something. I don't know. I feel like I. I think it was lackluster because we went into a reality that wasn't real,
Mhm.
as opposed to staying in reality and then showing something that's not real. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Mhm. It
Yeah.
does.
So I would have liked the latter more, but who knows?
Who
I don't know.
knows? Mhm.
Let me see if there's any more scenes that I wanted to talk about. No, I think that's about it. I think we
Yeah.
covered pretty much the whole movie for the most
Agreed.
part. So yeah, so shall we compare and contrast?
Sure.
Is this
Um
a high school English class?
I hope not. I didn't like
Yeah.
high school English.
Woo!
One of the things that I think I could say is They Clone Tyrone could easily be the book that Monk wrote.
Yes. Yes. 100% it could have been. And let me tell you, I watched American Fiction and then I directly watched They Clone Tyrone and
Oh,
I was giggling because I'm
yeah.
like, this is what this man was talking about,
This
but
is
also
Adam
not.
Brody's movie of Monk's book.
Yes. Yes. You see, yes. But you see, I would say They Clone Tyrone is not as bad as the book he actually
Yes,
wrote
of course.
because it was satire.
Yeah.
His book was not satire. It
Yep.
was like when you're satiring so hard that it becomes real. That's what Homeboy was doing.
Yeah.
The other one's actual satire,
Yeah.
just by the way.
That's hilarious.
um, yes. So other common things, wow, between the two stories. Black, black. Everybody's black.
Yes.
But also black people interacting with white people and that dynamic
Mhm.
is present in both of these films.
Yes. Um to that point, the white people assuming that the black people fall within a specific stereotype and that they can't
Yep.
what is the word? Evolve. They can't evolve outside of the
Mm-hmm.
stereotypes set upon them by the
Yeah.
white people.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I thought that was so funny because the villain in They Clone Tyrone was like, I should have killed you. I'm like, yeah, you should have killed her, but you underestimated her.
Yep.
That's why you got played, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you thought she wasn't going to do nothing, but you were wrong.
Wrong.
Sucks to
Um,
suck.
I have another theme.
Ooh.
They use death to move the plot along.
Ooh. Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm.
Some did it better than others.
Yes. But I mean, like, because with they clone Tyrone, right? That's like Fontaine dying and then finding out Fontaine died and, in a sense, resurrected is what kind of let the movie go. And I feel like you
Yep.
could say the death of Monk's father, as well as the death of Monk's sister, pushed Monk to be into a certain direction.
Yep.
And then also you could, in a sense, say like figuratively that his mother is dying because the person of who she was is
Yeah.
disappearing. So
Yeah,
like,
she's basically already dead. She's
yeah.
not there.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like those are different points. It's just like moving the plot along.
Yes. Death.
Death.
What else? I would say mm, I would say black people inter-community dynamics as well were explored.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Excluding the white people because there's some tensions when it comes to inside of the community
Right.
and how we see the world and what it should be,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Etc. Do you have any other themes?
um I would say the last theme that I can think of is characters actually, at least the main character, actually having a change by the end.
Mm.
I feel like Thelonious, he learned his lesson, at least for the most part. He learned a lesson.
He definitely learned a lesson.
A lesson. Um, and then I think Mr. Tyrone, because he was programmed essentially to make the hood an awful place and he ended up saving it.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
fair.
a pretty big
That's
that's a pretty big
a
difference.
very large difference. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Okay, that's it for me.
Okay. So let's get into our ranking system. We have two films, They Clone
Ah!
Tyrone and American Fiction. Do you mind going over what our current ranking is?
Let me do it. So number one of the best films of all time, Femme.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person.
Yep.
We have Challengers, Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives, The Substance, Piano Lesson, Anora, Wicked, Color Purple, Hard Truths, Didi, Girls Will Be Girls, Babygirl, Nosferatu, Different Man, Last Showgirl, and last and also least, Nightbitch.
Yeah. Last and also least, because that movie sucked.
But let me just say, I love me some Amy Adams. Amy
She
Adams,
needs to
that's
pick
my
better
girl.
movies.
This one, she normally picks good. This one, no. She's getting some points marked off. I'm so sorry.
100%. Okay. So what
Okay.
movie do you want to start with and where would you put it?
Let's start with American Fiction.
Okay. Where would you put it?
That's a good question. American Fiction, I think it should go above the piano lesson,
Which is below what?
below the substance.
Agreed.
Below the substance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's where it should
Locked
go.
in. Locked in and
Locking it
loaded.
in.
American Fiction is number 7.
Okay.
Then we have They Clone Tyrone. Where would you like to put that, Cinti?
So do you mind reading for me movies 5 through 10 on our
Yes,
list?
5 through 10, Past Lives, The Substance, American Fiction, Piano Lesson, Anora, and Wicked.
Okay. So I would say that Clone Tyrone will go below Anora, above Wicked.
Ooh. Okay. I'm trying to think. They cloned Tyrone because when you were talking, I was like, I think it should go below the piano lesson. They
Oh, which is where?
cloned.
Is Anora above piano
That's
lesson?
above. That's above Anora.
You know, it always happens when we go back and forth, but tell me why you think they clone Tyrone should be above Anora.
Yeah, so I think they cloned Tyrone should go above Anora because I don't think I was bored for any extended period of time and they cloned Tyrone. Maybe like bits in here and there, but not extended, right? Anora, big middle section, I was bored out of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also think I feel like the replayability, this would be a perfect movie if you're just chilling to put it on in the background and just kind of half watch it. It is the perfect film for that. Just saying. And then I think trying to think some of the like joyous parts, like the funny parts I enjoyed. And then Jamie, what's his name? Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx is hilarious.
He's a funny dude. I can't lie. And then Homegirl, what's her name?
Tiana Paris? Paris?
Tiana Paris. Yes, Paris. Tiana Paris. I love me some Tiana Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So, just saying.
So,
but yeah.
I will say I did find chunks of the movie boring. But and those were just the scenes near the end that they kind of lost me in the end. I didn't care for that whole Fontaine scene, and then afterwards I didn't care for the whole news scene, so it's just like that bored me just as much as I feel like Anora. But you bringing up Tiana Parrish, Jamie Foxx, and then I think John Boyega, they were really good, and they're black, you know, BLACK, black. And Anora was deficient in black people, so I feel like just because of that,
it was deficient.
It deserves to move up.
It was deficient. You know, let me just say, look at the title of this podcast.
Also,
we're rooting for everybody black.
Yeah, we are rooting
sorry.
for everyone black.
I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm thinking about it, because I'm like, Anora, the beginning was good, and then the ending was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The ending was phenomenal. But is an ending enough for a movie? You know what I mean?
No, I don't think so.
And then they cloned Tyrone. I just feel like I like the vibe. It was just a good vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But I can go either way. I'm going to let you make the final call. What do you think in your soul?
Chanel, I already said it.
Between Anora. Okay.
Yes. We had a whole little. You look at the title of this podcast. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And to be honest, it's not like we have too much preference, because I feel like it's a thing whenever we get into our debates. It's either we believe a movie goes above or below the same movie, right?
Yep.
We've never had a feeling where something that I believe is number 2, you think is number 10. Like that has never happened. So I'm not too pressed.
We'll see.
And you brought up a good point. We're rooting for everybody black.
We're rooting for everybody black. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I think. Yeah, our ranking's kind of getting interesting because Anora is number 10.
It's number 10?
It's number 10.
Wait. No, it's not.
It's number 10.
No, it's not.
It's number 10.
Oscar winner, Best Picture, like, Anora is number 10 on our list?
Number 10.
How many movies do we have on our list now?
We have 20. 20.
Anora, we think, is in the middle and potentially could be lower half of our list.
And here's the thing. Anora, I think that was like, was it a 4-star movie for me?
Mm-hmm.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
And so Femme, of course, is above that. Humanist Vampire is, of course, above that. Challengers is, of course, above that. Anatomy of a Fall is above that. Past Lives is above that. The Substance, I think, is also above that. Mm-hmm. Then we have American Fiction, The Piano Lesson, They Clone Tyrone. And then Anora. So I feel like, yes.
The list is correct.
So I feel like, what do you say?
Our list is correct. It's just surprising.
I think it's correct. It's just, I think there's just been a lot of good movies. And I think that's what's happening here. Because I'm like, the top half of our list, those first 10 are all good movies that I'd recommend for people to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bottom, maybe or maybe not watch those, you
Right.
know? So I think we just had a lot of good movies. But interesting enough, I think a majority of them are movies from last year.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah.
But the one that
Yeah.
that I think is very interesting is that we put Substance. Like, I think, what is Substance sitting in place number 7,
Yes.
6?
It's in number 6.
So it's the fact that it's like up to number 6, but you know, we just watched the Oscars recently, and it's the fact that Substance wasn't even like Substance. I don't think got any awards outside of like makeup and special effects during the Oscars.
I think so.
And I could understand, like, we have a lot of movies that are not from the same year, and especially like sometimes the movies that you enjoy don't get nominated for like in like the Oscars categories. Like, for example, I don't think They Cloned Tyrone was nominated for.
I don't think so.
So obviously there's going to be more movies that are going to be more palpable for the person to watch than for like maybe an awards type category. But it's just very interesting to me that Substance is almost 5 spots above, like clearly sitting in the upper half of our list, versus Anora's teetering into the lower half, and it won the Oscar for Best Picture.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that Challengers wasn't even nominated.
Yeah. that was such a mistake. Challengers. That was such a mistake.
L. So yeah, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about our list here.
Me
and
too.
I'm interested to see where things are going to end up. I don't think Anora's going to stay top 10.
It's not. It's definitely not.
Yikes.
I know the movies that we have coming, it's definitely not going to stay top 10.
Yeah. Because when I think about Anora, when I think about Anora, I think about the ending, and then I think about how the fact I'm probably not going to watch that movie ever again.
The beginning and the beginning was strong. The ending was strong.
And the ending was strong.
Yeah. I feel like the movie itself is probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. I feel like I'd only really want to rewatch 20 minutes of it.
Exactly. Watch the beginning.
And just in the end.
After she gets done whooping that man's behind, skip to the end.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Okay, so let's wrap this up. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Bye.
Bye. We'll see you in the next one.
Yep.